Hey everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Aaron. If you're new here, thanks for stopping by, and if you are a current subscriber returning to watch my videos, I really do appreciate it. Right, so episode 6 of the Rings of Power. Let's get into it. Right off the bat, I'm just gonna say I think this was one of the better episodes as far as action goes. There are some issues with it, like if you really want to just nitpick the hell out of the show. I might address a few of them in this review, but overall, I felt like this was a pretty solid episode. So these are some of my thoughts. It opens up with Adar giving this speech during the night to the Uruk, and there's a lot of close-up shots of the orcs or the Uruk. I gotta say, I absolutely love that the show went with non-CGI Hobbit film-esque orcs and goblins and stuff. Like, this is all makeup and prosthetics, and it looks great. Like, they look so real, and I just love it. So Adar and the orcs descend upon this city or where the tower is. It's all like quiet and everything, and it turns out Arondir has like set up this elaborate like trap type of thing, like as a distraction, as a little bit of a time waster, I guess is a better way of putting it, to slow them down so that the rest of the people who escaped can make it to the village, fortify, and prepare to fight. The problem I had with this is it's a good strategy because you really don't have any other strategy, but he destroys this tower, right? It falls on some of the orcs and blah blah blah, and then it cuts like way far out off in the distance, and you see all the townspeople like cheering and like,
"Yay, he destroyed the tower and he probably killed a bunch of orcs."
and they're like standing there, and I'm thinking he did this so that you guys can get a head start, get a little bit more time to make weapons, fortify defenses, and stuff like that, and you're just standing here watching this from like 2 miles away. Like, it just seemed like so stupid. I don't know, some of the decisions people like characters make in the show that are like so cliche really bother me. Like, there's other scenes throughout this episode, actually many, where someone's about to die. It's super intense and they're about to die, and then all of a sudden another good guy stabs the bad guy in the back or something and saves the other person's life. Like, I'm not exaggerating when I say this happens at least 4 times in this episode. And that's just something that always bothers me in movies. To do it at least 4 times is just like, I don't know, it feels lazy. So, in the last episode, Numenor finally decides to aid the people of Middle Earth and go help them, and they send out 3 ships. And a lot of people were complaining about it. I didn't mention it because I thought, well, let's wait and see, let's watch and see what happens. And I'm watching this episode, it shows just 3 ships out at sea. And I'm like, oh, okay, I guess they really did go with 3 ships. But if you pay attention to the dialogue, the Queen Regent lady says to Elendil,
"Signal the other ships. Tell them to make haste."
I think the other ships were like way back. We never see them, but it's implied that they show up, that they're on their way. So like they sent out 3 ships ahead of the rest of the army. So it's kind of one of those things that if you're just going based on visuals, you won't catch it, but if you actually listen to the dialogue, it makes more sense. I was watching another YouTube reviewer complaining and mocking the show, specifically this episode, that later on in the episode when the Numenorians finally show up to rescue the villagers, that there's hundreds and hundreds of horses. And there are, as anyone with 2 eyes can see. And he makes the point that you never see these horses on the boats. And you do see a few horses on the boats, but you don't see that many, obviously. So where'd they all come from? He broke it down and said it's terrible writing, but is it? Because if you actually pay attention to the fact that she said, signal the other ships, tell them to, hurry up and get here, they're probably carrying the horses. Because you see a lot more men, and you see hundreds of horses that weren't there on those 3 boats, because those 3 boats probably had a total of maybe 200 soldiers on them. So it's a show, it's set to a certain time limit, so you have to cut out scenes, and you also have to cut out portions of visual storytelling. Maybe you can't show 50 other ships, so you just allude to the fact that they're going to show up. I think that guy's point is completely invalid and that he wasn't paying attention. So the village raid at night, after the tower collapses, the orcs show up, and there's so much tension and dread, and I thought it was really, really well done. You see how terrified the villagers are, and it makes complete sense, because the orcs are terrifying and a huge, overwhelming force. So they have this battle, but the battle, for me, ended very quickly. And I was actually writing down some notes. My note says, battle felt ended too quick. And literally, as I was writing it, then there's the reveal that it wasn't over yet. If they would have just kept it that they fought off the orcs and there was just this small, intense battle and that was it, I would have been disappointed and upset. But that was all part of Adar's plan. So the battle's over, they're looking at the dead, they realize the dead are actually their fellow humans who... That's my bone growth stimulator machine going off. Means I can take it off. Check it out. So they're looking over the dead and they realize that the dead, most of them, not all of them, are humans wearing like helmets and masks and armor and stuff, so you couldn't tell during the battle. These humans were their fellow villagers who went and pledged allegiance to Adar. The only problem I have with that is I don't know how quickly you could, in the course of a few days, change these villagers' minds to completely turn on their fellow neighbors and humans that fast to the point where they'd actually go in and fight them to the death. I mean, I suppose it's possible. It just kind of felt unlikely. But then out of nowhere, arrows start falling and hitting people. Okay, this makes way more sense, because if you're going to attack at night, what's the best thing to do? Just shoot arrows from the darkness into this shooting gallery of people. Out in the open, nowhere to hide. They think the battle's over. They're just, like, sitting targets. So I thought that was actually a really smart, like, tactical move as far as warfare goes on Adar's part. So eventually Galadriel and the Numenorians, or Numenors, whatever, they finally show up just when they're needed, like in every movie and every show. I was hoping, and I don't know why I was hoping, because the show was definitely not going to do something like this, but I was hoping they were going to get there, like, too late, and almost everyone was going to be, like, murdered. Obviously they didn't do that. That's not too surprising. But they show up. The battle scenes are pretty good. I gotta say that this is definitely the most violent episode, and it doesn't shy away from stabbings, beheadings, dismembering people, and orcs. I was actually a little surprised because so far the show has been rather tame, and I guess that makes sense because we haven't had many battle sequences yet, but I liked it. I liked the dark, gritty feel to it. There's this really cool scene with a horse chase with Galadriel and Adar. She's chasing after him to stop him from getting away with the key, which is, that, like, sword that grows. That's what she said. I thought that scene was pretty cool. We don't get the weird-looking grin on her face from that other episode. This is more serious, which was nice. But I thought it was done well for a horse chase scene. I thought it kept good excitement, good tension. Now, as far as Halbrand goes, this show is keeping people guessing, because every week after every episode, people are like, no, he's not Sauron. Yes, he is. I don't think he is. I think this is a misdirection. And I think that's great for the show. People are complaining about the show's writing, and I will admit that the show does have some writing issues. But as far as this little side plot attention drawing device used by the writers, I think it works really well, because we still don't know if Halbrand is Sauron. Even in this episode, we saw things that were like, this could be taken that he is Sauron, or this could be taken that he is just the heir to the kingdom of the Southlands. I'd like to go back and rewatch that part of the episode and kind of just break it down and see if I can figure out what's going on. I will say that Halbrand seems to have some major personal issues with Adar. At first I was like, okay, this seems kind of weird. And then it's implied that maybe Adar killed his family. Halbrand is like, you have no idea what you did to me and all this stuff, and it's just like, it could be that he's, has all this grief inside him from his family getting killed or siblings or whatever, but it could also be that Adar backstabbed Sauron, because we do hear that Adar says, I killed Sauron. So maybe Halbrand is like,
I'm back and you screwed up and I hate you and I'm gonna kill you for it.
That type of thing. That is where the writing, I think, is at its strongest point, is the whole aspect of who is Sauron. So I don't know. I like that it keeps us guessing. I think it's fun. It gets talked about that Sauron was trying to get into magic, get into like the unseen realm, and use those types of forces to his advantage, and he hasn't really figured it out yet. I think they're going to explore that more in future episodes, about more of the magical things going on in Middle-earth, because so far most of what we've seen has been very like grounded in, well, I gotta be careful how I use the term realism because it is fantasy, but more grounded in like real life type of things. There isn't much talk about magic and special powers and things like that. So I think they're going to start getting into that probably next season. This is mild spoilers, so if you haven't watched the episode, I'm going to put the spoilers up, and then they'll go away when I'm done talking about the spoilers. We find out that the traitor dude who left the village and went over and pledged his allegiance to Adar, that he did the old like switcheroo with that magical sword key thing, and that he has it all along during that whole battle that was going on. He uses it to break this dam down. And as the dam was breaking down, I was like, okay, so what? It's just water. Like, I think they're far enough away that the water isn't going to cause an issue. But then we see what the tunnels were for. A lot of people were assuming, and so was I, that the tunnels were kind of meant to have the orcs move during the daylight so that they wouldn't be just traveling at night because of the sun and all that. But it also felt like they were also building this giant trench. Was this trench for some sort of weapon to carry secretly so no one else could see it? But then we find out that it sends and redirects all this water into this dormant volcano, which turns out that it's actually Mount Doom. I didn't know that. So that is kind of interesting. And it sparks up this dormant volcano into being an active volcano. And that's pretty much where the episode ends. As the ash is falling and all the fire and everything, you see that Adar escaped, so he's still out there. I thought the show ended on a good cliffhanger for the next episode. Overall, like I said, I enjoyed this episode. It was nice to finally have some action on screen. I will say that the battle scenes did feel not as epic as I was hoping. And there's still 2 episodes left to this season, so we could see something better. And there are 4 or 5 seasons left as well, but it just didn't feel as large scale as I was hoping. We don't really get a good idea of how many orcs there are, because in some scenes it feels like there's 100, and other scenes it feels like there's 30, and then in other scenes you think it's like a couple thousand. So I really don't know. It's kind of weird. I just felt like it was very small scale for what it should have been, and I get that due to budget and, things of that nature as far as production goes. But still, I mean, this show is the most expensive show ever produced. I just thought they would have made this a little more epic. But maybe they're just saving that more epic, large-scale thing for episodes in the future. So I'm definitely excited for next week's episode. Like, I wanted to push play next episode, and it wasn't there because they only come out once a week. So I'll just have to wait. Does this episode have flaws? Yes, it does. I think the more you look at it, if you really pay attention, some of the flaws that people are pointing out can easily be like debunked or whatever. But at the same time, the more in-depth you look at it to fix those problems, you're going to discover other problems. So I just wish people could stop just bitching and moaning about this show. It's a show. Let's just enjoy it, people. Like, I don't get the hate behind it. I think it's just because people want to get the attraction to their channels. Because, hey, I'll admit, I've even clicked on many reviews of people saying, this show sucks. Because I want to know why they think it sucks. Even though I don't think it does, and I don't like their opinion, but I'm still watching, so they're still getting views. So I really think that's kind of what it boils down to. Anyhow, what were your thoughts on episode 6 of The Rings of Power? Do you agree with any of my points? Do you disagree? Did anything stand out to you that maybe I didn't mention? If so, leave your comments below. I'd be very interested in reading them. And as always, if you'd like this video, and subscribe to my channel if you would like to see further reviews for this series and reactions to trailers and other videos on the internet, random videos that I make about things I want to talk about, movie reviews, etc. Make sure you subscribe. I would very much appreciate it. Alright, thanks for watching. My name is Aaron, and I hope you come back and see me in another video. Goodbye.